Hello. Lately, I have some time spare, so I decided to invest it in doing things that I like. While the intended audience of this video are pen testers and red team members, even if you are not one of them, do not worry. I'm going to assume that you do not have any previous knowledge on the subject and will try to break down things as much as possible. Imagine that you are in the middle of a red team exercise in which data exfiltration is in scope. You found a vulnerability and successfully exploited it. Luckily, the vulnerability was a RCE, also known as remote code execution, and you end up with a shell. For those who are not familiar with the shell is a way to interact with the operating system like CMD or Powershell, or maybe a bash. There are a few other types of shells like web shells. Okay, so now you have a shell. So let me quickly open one. There are a few next steps which you would want to do, like privilege escalations, basically make yourself admin, or maybe want to create persistence, that is leave a backdoor in the system and intrude the machine whenever you want. Since data exfiltration is also in scope, you basically want to take juicy stuff out of the box like passwords or credit card numbers. Now, since Windows is one of the most used operating systems in the world, there is a high probability that the shell that you have landed on is a CMD or PowerShell. Even if it is a PHP shell or another ASP or ASPX web shell, you can port it to CMD with basic research and tools like Netcat and Metasploit. Next comes the problem statement and the topic of discussion for this video, the antivirus. Okay, so here I have a Windows system. Here I have a Windows system which is fully patched Windows 10 operating system. Let me just demonstrate that. Yeah, last checked yesterday. And basically the antivirus needs no introduction. Everybody knows what it is and how it works, so I'm not going to waste your time on that. Let's directly jump into our proof of concept. I have cloned 4 instances of the operating system. There are 4 different antiviruses. First is Kaspersky, second is Nord32, third is your McAfee, and fourth is Avida. So as a part of this video, I could also install a vulnerable program and show you how remote code execution works, but that's just going to make the video long. There are enough tutorials on that, and that's not what this video is about. In this video, I want to discuss how do you bypass or evade an antivirus. So let me just open a shell. Let's choose McAfee for now. And let's just imagine that this shell is being operated by an attacker remotely after exploiting a remote code execution. Okay, so in this shell, we would want to gain privileges, create persistence, and get passwords. I'm not sure if you are aware, but there are many frameworks for that. If you are remotely familiar with pen testing and red teaming kind of topics, you know that everybody knows Metasploit. But that is the problem. Even blue team members and antivirus companies know it, so they would put countermeasures for Metasploit and similar other frameworks. 8 years ago, a meta-predecessor would have been an ideal method to perform post-exploit steps, but not so much today. in its default state. I mean, there are ways around that as well. Good news is that there are other frameworks available. Bad news is that even they are detected. Okay, so without wasting more time, let me quickly take you through Nissan. Nissan is Nishan, as described by its creator Nikhil, is a framework and collection of scripts and payloads which enable users of power exploits for offensive security and penetration testing and red teaming. He also says that Nisang is useful during all phases of penetration testing. However, as per my experience, mostly we would use it after having a shell. I would not want to use it for port scans since there are multiple better tools around. Anyway, they have a bunch of tools available which can be relevant for us after we have a shell, like backdoors, active directories, man in the middle, etc. And since all of it is in PowerShell, so it should create less antivirus triggers, or so one would think. I will jump to a script I think which will be my first go-to spot in this situation, that is Mimikatz. Which is in gather folder. If you are watching this video, I'm sure you have heard of it. It is basically a tool to dump passwords for Windows users in plain text. The tool itself is pretty old, but it is under consistent development. And as you can see, the last release was 29 days ago. Anyway, in Nissan, you have a PowerShell script that can run Mimikatz, which is this script. Okay, so let me try that. Let me try this Nissan script to open to dump credentials in McAfee. So I have this shell, this script here. Let me try to save it, and it is asking me to save as text. I just want to save it on the desktop as PS1 script, and yeah, so I have successfully saved it. Let me try to quickly run it as well. No, it is running as text, so run with PowerShell. It's asking me to change execution policy. What about the antivirus? Is it detecting it? Let me quickly scan. And McAfee has started performing a full scan, which I don't really want to do. But let's see. Okay, it's just scanning one item, and it has detected the item, and we have wiped out all the threads. Basically, the antivirus did its job. It identified that we are dealing with a threat here, and the file is intrusive in nature. Anyway, as per my understanding, the file, it shouldn't have just let me save the file. Let me try that again. Maybe the antivirus was asleep or something. Anyway, okay, so I have saved the file as text. Let me try to rename it. So basically, this antivirus was allowing me to execute the script, but okay, so it is no longer allowing me to execute the script. So, but if I just wanted to dump the credentials, why do I want to come to Nissan for this? I could have just downloaded the latest Mimikaz release and then try to dump the credentials using that. Basically, the idea is in a red teaming exercise or in a pen test, you don't want to download malicious executables or scripts onto the disk. You want to stay as much hidden as possible. You saw once I downloaded it to disk and converted it to executable, it got flagged. But what if we never hit the disk? In PowerShell, there are a few ways to do it. And the easiest and most popular way to do is to create a new web client object. So there is a shortcut command for that. Let me quickly open one. And yeah. So basically what you do is you open PowerShell window, and by the way, this PowerShell window is running in restricted mode. As you can see, it's restricted. Even in restricted mode, you can directly download a client object and then execute it. Let me try to do that. Something is happening. Will McAfee detect it and block it? Let's see. Alright, so the script was executed, and as you can see, McAfee did not flag it. You don't really want to see, you don't really see the passwords here because it needs an admin shell to dump credits, but I was just checking if an offensive script will run, and it did. But does this execution in memory work with all antiviruses? Well, we can quickly test for that. We have just tested it on McAfee. Let me try to run it on a system which has Kaspersky on it. So what if I just do the same thing? I will just download the script in memory and try to run it. Does that work? Okay, so there was a red flash on, I'm not sure if you saw it, but yeah, there was a red flash here. And I will just wait for the results. Alright, so the script contains malicious content and has been blocked by your antivirus software. So in-memory execution is an old trick, and it has been working for past few years, but it doesn't really work with all antiviruses anymore. And as you can see, the request has been forbidden by the antivirus. Now the question is, how would the antivirus know what is happening in memory? But before that, let's discuss which and all antivirus actually flag it. So as per my quick research, out of the 4 antiviruses installed here, which is Kaspersky, Nord32, third is McAfee, and fourth is Avira. So basically Kaspersky and Nord32, they flag it, and McAfee and Avira, they don't flag it. I'll show you during the demo. So let's go back to our initial point of discussion. How would the antivirus know what is happening in memory? I'm not writing anything to the disk. And the answer is, there is something called AMSI. anti-malware scan interface. As per Microsoft documentation, whenever you try to run anything in PowerShell or VB script, it will interact with the COM API layer, which will then in turn interact with the AV providing layer. In our case, there are 4 third-party AV providers, which are Kaspersky, Avira, McAfee, and Nord32. And during this interaction, if the AV layer flags the URL or the script, then boom, you are caught. This is something they have introduced in Windows 10. This was not present in Windows 7 or 8, I think. But anyways, it is here now. So how do we deal with it? Okay, so I'm not the first one to encounter this problem. This has been around for a while and people have done enough research on it. Even Nissan has a script for this bypass, which I'm not sure it really works. So I tried this AMSI bypass by Nissan, and the script doesn't really work. I mean, Avira won't flag it, but let's try it on Kaspersky, and so this will also get flagged. The script is 2 years old, and I'm sure it would have worked at the time. If you just search for AMSI bypass, you will come across multiple articles. So there are these Rata Mouse article, and then Zcool blog. Both entries are a bit old, and both basically say the same thing. There are 2 ways to bypass AMSI. First is obfuscating the script. Basically, you encode the script so that AVs cannot read it. So that's what Rata Mouse is saying here. I recommend obfuscating the script. And second is they tell you to create a DLL, and using that DLL you can bypass the AMSI. So in C# you can compile a DLL, and then via reflection you can use either PowerShell or Sharpsploit or similar other frameworks to bypass the AMSI layer. However, the problem that I have with that is obfuscation is not really a solution. No matter how much you encode your script, you will have to decode it in memory so that so that obfuscation could work for a few days, but it won't really work in the long run. And for the second solution, I don't really want to have a DLL hitting the disk. Even if it is not detected right now due to some reason, it will give evidences to the forensics, which will basically then they'll understand the ways in which I am trying to intrude into the machine. So I digged a little more deeper. So I took help of 2 other articles which have been published in last 1 year. First is this blog of AMSI bypass by Paul Line, and second is the CyberArk article by Evie Gimple. I hope that I'm getting their names right. I'm poor with name pronunciation. So Paul had written a script, but due to some reason I couldn't find it in GitHub. So there are multiple snippets available, but the final script which he says should be available here, which is no longer available. And the code snippets in the article, due to some reason, could not evade a few antiviruses. He has given detailed code snippet articles. The blog itself is quite informative. It will nonetheless improve your PowerShell skills as well as how to interact with the Windows API. Anyway, I took his snippets and AV's idea that the content buffer should be patched and created a new script, which is again in this bypass folder. So this is a fork which I have done from Nissan's folder, and I have introduced this new script, invoke allocus AV bypass. AV's article also advocated that a DLL should be created, which I wanted to avoid, so I merged the idea with Paul's script. So now if you are in a pen testing exercise and bothered by AMSI, you can just run this short command and go ahead with the memory execution of your intrusive scripts. Let me quickly demonstrate this on the 4 instances that we have. So in the Kaspersky instance, if you remember, we just tried to run the invoke mimic-ads and didn't work, and then invoke AMSI bypass as well didn't work. Now let me try to run the script that I have created there. Alright, so my script got executed. Can we use mimic-ads now? Let me try that. Alright, so the script got executed with mimic-ads, and the antivirus did not flag it. So like this, you can successfully evade antiviruses in a machine which is fully patched till 1st of Feb, and which has a fully updated antivirus. When was last update done? 1 hour ago. Alright. So let's try this on Node 32 as well. Like I said, it flags the mimic-ads module. Let me show you how it does flag the mimic-ads module. Alright, so it gave you a warning, and the processing was closed. Now let me try my new bypass. And now can we use mimic-ads? So now you can invoke your intrusive scripts as well. Mimic-ads is not actually showing passwords here, but that is because this shell is not administrative. The idea is you can run multiple other modules available in Nissan. So you can run shells and then perhaps even metadata sessions using Nissan. For the other 2 antiviruses that are this McAfee and Avira. In McAfee, I already demonstrated that it doesn't really complain if you run mimic-ads in memory directly without saving it to disk. Let me try that with Avira as well. So Avira does not complain about mimic-ads either. Okay. All right. So basically, you can use this new script to bypass AMSI based script and malware checks. I hope this video has been informative for you, and I'll see you in the next.